Good evening, everybody. Welcome to City Council meeting for City of North Bend, May 16th, 2023 here at City Hall. Will the clerk please confirm the roll?
All council members are present with the exception of Council Member Elwood, Your Honor.
Thank you. And flag salute. I'll stand and start the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Council, we've got a couple of changes I want to propose for tonight's agenda. First is I'd like to draw your attention to item number 5 on the consent agenda. I'd like to pull that from the agenda, send it back to the administration for revision and further consideration. And then it would go back to F&A some point after that in consultation with the museum. They may want a few more changes. We're looking at that again. So not ready for prime time. Also, I want to draw your attention to items 6 and 8 on our main agenda. Item 6 is the public hearing for the 6-year transportation impact plan. And item 8 is one of the items on that plan, the Bendigo 4th Street roundabout. I would suggest that we take up the roundabout first as it may impact the tip. I'm suggesting number 8 to come before number 6. That is the only changes. I will have a few more comments on other items as we get to them. So with that, there's no objection. Could I get a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
You?
Second.
Thank you. Got a motion by Mr. Godhouse, second by Mr. Jocelyn. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It is unanimous. Thank you very much. With that consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Miller, second by Mr. Jocelyn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You, any opposed? Motion carries. It is unanimous. This time we'll move to citizens' comments. If you're a member of the public, either here in chambers or online, and would like to address council on an item that's not on tonight's agenda, we would love to hear from you. You'll have up to 3 minutes to speak, starting with your name and address for the record. We'll start here in chambers, and then I'll look to see if we have anyone online. So I'm looking, casting my eyes around chambers, not seeing anybody leaping to their feet. Rita, do we have anyone online?
No one online.
Thank you very much. Moving right along, commission and committee reports. We'll start with Councilmember Miller on community and economic development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome, Ms. Miller.
Let me begin. Today, we met in the adjournment room. We had 5 things on our agenda. First was we mixed it up, so bear that in mind. We started into the middle of the pack. So we began with the North Bend Downtown Foundation events and downtown management contract. We'll hear more about that tonight, I'm sure. We also went into the housing action plan. We had a nice, healthy discussion, excuse the noise, pardon me. And we had representation from the 9 folks from Blues Line to ask and answer questions that we had. The parks element, we're looking into that chapter right now. It's quite exciting. So we'll look forward to the future and learning more about what was happening. And the field trip discussion that we had between council members, we're looking forward to that as well. And we next meet, the end of next June. It's next coming June. Coming up. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Godhealth, Finance and Administration.
Thank you. Finance Administration met May 9th at 4 p.m. at the City Hall adjournment room. We reviewed a request for proposal for attorney services. We discussed an ordinance, NBC 9.45 controlled substances, which I don't think we need to move forward if what state took care of that was to fix the state not take care of.
We'll have a few comments about that when we get to that agenda.
Right, so
Yes.
it looks like that will not be moved forward, but we did have one agenda set just in case the states didn't follow through and take care of that situation. We discussed approving the lease agreement between Snoqualmie and City of North Bend, of which we have moved off to discuss further. It'll be coming back to the Finance Committee. And then we discussed a resolution, interlocal agreement between the City of North Bend, City of Snoqualmie, and Sideview Metropolitan Park District for the Meadowbrook. Rousing discussion.
Thank you very much. See where we are. Mr. Rosen, Public Health and Safety.
Take that one.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Change hitter.
So again, at the public safety meeting, we discussed the ordinance regarding the possession of drugs, the same fix that we're hoping that the governor will sign, and then looks okay. We got a rousing police update from Phipps and Captain Lynch, and then we had a fire update with Deputy Director Aho, and a lot of the fire update will come in sight on each side.
You. Mr. Lonbeck, Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you, Your Honor. We last met on April 25th in the adjournment room. We had 10 items on the agenda. Those that are coming forward tonight, data on completed ongoing future storm drainage capital projects, discuss of the new pavement management program where we're increasing funding for pavement management within the city. We discussed Mr. Moore resolution awarding a construction contract to Dalium for our sidewalk repair projects, and the resolution awarding the contract to Rainier Asphalt for the Maloney Grove Cedar Falls Way intersection improvements project. And the rest of the items were either handled in the last meeting or will be discussed later this evening. Our next meeting will be on the 23rd in the adjournment room. Your Honor.
You. And Ms. Cullen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our work study was on April 25th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in council chambers. We had a presentation with Mike McCarty and two park consultants. Talked about Riverfront Park and connectivity from downtown. Discussed the need for some restoration and what did we want that to look like? Would it be historical? Would it be natural? Which means restoration and native species and taking out invasives, or an activity trail. And we discussed how to access it via parking situation. We also talked about 3 different plans for William Taylor Park and McClellan Street and what we wanted that park to look like, opening it up and making it more accessible and leading paths to Sideview parks. Could it be an art sculpture park, a spray park, or parasol was introduced? Those were some of the ideas.
Thank you. We'll move to commission reports. Ms. Deming. I'll come back to you, Mr. Gottlieb.
You went out of order. Wasn't ready. The planning commission last met on May 3rd for a public hearing and deliberation on the draft housing action plan. The commission will next meet May 17th and will be discussing the scope of work for the 2024 comprehensive plan update, as well as recent state legislation affecting land use planning, which staff anticipates needing to prepare municipal code amendments to address. Parks Commission last met April 19th for a joint meeting with the Planning Commission to review the parks element of the comprehensive plan. The Parks Commission will next meet May 24th. That meeting, they will conduct their annual city park tour, discuss potential capital improvements within city parks, identify maintenance needs, and prepare recommendations to staff and council such maintenance needs and capital improvement. The Economic Development Commission did not meet in April. The next EDC meeting will be held on May 23rd. Commission will review the timeline and process for updating the economic development element of the city's comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Mr. Gottlieb, we'll just pretend that I didn't miss you. I just didn't want folks to get overwhelmed with you speaking so many times in a row.
I see,
Side fire.
Absolutely. Thank you. So East Side Fire and Rescue met May 11th, 4 p.m. at the East Side Fire and Rescue headquarters. We had a special retirement of Captain Don Turner, 34 years with the agency. and the special recognition of a promotion of Captain Marshall Fry. So it's kind of fun to see, bad for the retirement, but a lot of years and welcome for his work. And then the new replacement for Captain Don Turner was. We discussed agenda board policy. That was really to increase the chief's performance reviews as opposed to doing once a year. We have to a 6-month review, so he knows board has issues, what he needs to do the year as an issue. And then the chief's briefing, he talked about a couple of things. They had a workshop for future women in fire and EMS that was overwhelmingly attended. He gave us an update on the Duville RFP update. It's looking pretty good. They're asking a lot of financial questions, and he met with them today. He also discussed the proposal that we gave to Mercer Island for their services, taking over their fire and emergency medical services, and an update on that. Out of our academy, EFR has got 8 recruits that are going to start the academy August 28th. Gave a quick update on a joint meeting with City of Issaquah and Washington State Department of Ecology, our collaboration on the PFAS. And then one of the things I think I talked about the last time, an update on the Wildland Hall, which was hosted by EFR and was attended by Congresswoman Schreier, Council Member Perry, and Mayor Polly. And it was a really good opportunity for residents in that area and residents all around to get an idea of what we can do to help them take a look at what they can do to protect their property if they're in the wildland interface. I understand there's a tabletop one coming to North Bend soon, so we got an update on the fire ops program. Looks like we've got a good attendance for that. And then the other thing that was kind of cool is one of the things working with the Snoqualmie tribe was they are the available grants to them. And they got a grant that actually got us a new aid car. So it was a picture, they showed us a picture, talked about the aid car. There's going to be some really nice drawings or characters that represent certain things. And we'll the next time I'm here, we'll have an update as to what each one of the items represent and what it means on the aid truck. Well, we also talked about the May 6th, the King County Diversity Recruitment Workshop, well attended there. And then we got a copy of the 2022 annual report. Interested in that? That's up on the website. And that was it.
A lot.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. Other regional committee report. Olin.
King County Board of Health, they met on April 20th, 2023 via Zoom at 1 o'clock. We talked about the overdose trends, treatments and response. In 2022, there were 700 fentanyl overdoses and 450 meth overdoses. There were 1,003 overdose deaths from fentanyl/meth, polysubstance abuse. And then they talked about the legislative response regarding THC and the bills that passed during the legislative process.
Thank you. Mr. Lundbeck.
Thank you, Your Honor. The SCA Public Issues Committee last met on May 10th via Zoom. We spent about an hour and a half discussing the ACRHA, King County Regional Homelessness Association 5-year plan, which is coming to fruition. They have completely revamped their plan. Last time the plan was presented. And apparently none of this is going to matter because Mark Jones resigned.
Today.
So we'll all lovely find out what everything's going to be like here in another week or two. That was about the extent of that meeting.
Thank you so much. Anyone else have a regional? Hey. Yeah, I saw that announcement today. Not really a shock. Great, thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to the main agenda. As approved, we'll move first to item number 8. This is AB 23-063, a resolution accepting FHWA funds and authorizing the agreement regarding Bendigo and 4th Street roundabout project. Mr. Regos.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, the council here to talk about 4th Street and 202 roundabout capital project we have. Just start this off with, imagine you're driving in a car, with a sign that says last rest stop for 100 miles. That's basically what we have tonight with this transportation capital project. We're at the point where we have to make progress on this project, or we have to give the grant money back to the state of Washington. So if the car mates say they can hold going to the bathroom for 100 miles, great. That's the equivalent on holding on this project for at least 6 or 7 years. Because we wouldn't bring this forward to this council or probably to the next council, this particular project. Note that this project has not been very active at all in the past 2 years since we had the relocation study performed a couple of years ago. A couple points on this project that have come up, various questions that have been asked of me is we can't use this grant money. It's about $800,000 on another city project. It won a competition and that grant money has to be used on State Route 202 at this location. In case you're still on the fence on this decision, I know there is some support from council on this, but the existing intersection has been on the city's 6-year transportation improvement plan for about 10 years. The existing intersection has had a few car crashes. I think the roundabout would be safer than the existing condition. The existing intersection does not allow left turn movements. The new roundabout would result in full traffic mobility. The existing intersection does not have pedestrian crossings. The new roundabout would have safe pedestrian crossings. The roundabout would decrease congestion at the nearby North Bend Way SR 202 intersection because left turn movements can occur, so that decreases the queuing towards that signal light that we have downtown. And there's a lot of back and forth driving. In part, we notice it due to the one high school, the two cities. So a lot of teachers and high school students drive back and forth to Mount Si High School. We could design the project to be shovel ready and then hold on the project. That's really what the vote is on tonight. I don't think there's support from the majority of this council to move forward. A couple councils ago, there was in 2 future councils, there might be again. So your vote tonight is special, individual, and unique. Staff's recommendation is to move forward with this. Several council members may support it. Whatever the vote ends up being tonight, staff will support your decision.
Thank you. Council, any clarifying questions before we move to public comment? None. Hey, if there's a member here in the audience or online that wishes to speak to this item, give you up to 3 minutes. And starting here in chambers, anyone moving toward the podium? Everyone holding their seats firmly. Do we have anyone online?
No one at this time.
One at this time, Mr. Loudenback, I believe this came through your committee.
Indeed, it did, Your Honor. Motion to approve AB 23-063, a resolution accepting federal STP funds for preliminary engineering of the Bendigo Boulevard and 4th Street Roundabout Capital Project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Miller. Mr. Loudenback.
Well, I think we've all seen this project on several occasions. The issue really, in my mind, is that we won a competition amongst many other cities for this funding. Whether we intend to move forward with the project, the basic engineering for the improvement of the intersection can be accomplished with the funding. I believe that's true, Mr. Regos.
Yes.
And the implications to the people who grant the money to cities such as ourselves in competitive situations, have the funding be returned. It's not a sign of fiscal responsibility, but they usually assume that that community can't really get things done. And I'm sorry, but that is the impression that they get. And when you're dealing with people like PSRC, who are the municipal planning organization responsible for doling out federal dollars to communities such ourselves in a competitive situation, what ends up happening is that our future bids are impacted by what's happened with our previous projects. And I have to say that North Bend has been very successful in obtaining funding and using that money to improve the infrastructure here in the city of North Bend. Unfortunately, the funding being returned, I think, is going to make getting future dollars far more difficult for this community. Now, am I wholeheartedly for moving forward the way the project is scheduled right now? Other than doing the engineering work and the infrastructure below ground, which is provided for in this funding, I don't think that we're ready for construction of a roundabout at that facility. However, there are some problematic areas in the boundaries of the project scope, and I think that we're going to have to address them sooner or later. It makes sense to have some of the fundamental engineering work already done on the books, ready to go, should we have an opportunity to make improvements down the road. So I would recommend a consideration of due pass for this project.
Yeah, Ms. Miller, you were the second.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to open it up to the public or council members beside me. I also wanted to add one thing, and it's going back in time a little bit where we had a grant for over 1.2 million to build a potential city hall in downtown. And we let it go. And that was a fear that we would never have grants for years, but we ended up we've had plenty of grants. I'm really grateful for the opportunity for Dan Marcinko to go forward to get grants on our behalf. He's done a wonderful job. So this is no reflection to his hard work and staffs as well. But I want to be clear that we've had this situation before, just a little differently. Thank you.
Yeah. Olin.
I also want to thank Dan Marcinko for getting us this very competitive grant. It speaks a lot that our city got it, but I would like to mention that if we go forward with this roundabout, it makes us relocate 6 families from their homes. And they are senior living facilities that are very affordable, and they will potentially not have that affordability again. My question is, where would the city move them? We don't know the answer to that. What would the cost be for them to live where they would live in the future? And I thought our initial goal was to keep the existing affordable homes that we already have. So is it worth it? Will that really change traffic flow dramatically enough to move people? And that's my thoughts on this roundabout. Thank you.
You. Else, Mr. Gosselin. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Gatto.
Yeah, I'm in the same category. I take a look at where this intersection is, and I think we talked about this in work, and I think the majority of council during work study struggled with it. I don't see it increasing much when you do have traffic off of 202 and you turn to that whole thing's backed up beyond the bridge. You're not going to get movement. And what you're going to do is force movement down a street that may not be capable of handling the type of movement. And also in those incidents when we have closures at I-90 or even during the winter that people come through town, I think that's going to drive them through town. Also concerned that we're targeting an area where we have some amount of, affordable housing, and we would be disrupting that. If I felt like this project moving forward would add some traffic flow to that area, I'd be for it. But the fact that I don't see it moving traffic flow very much different and also affecting low-income homes concerns me. And I'm not sure I agree with the comment. I think it'd be more concerning for a city to take on grant money that is for project and not have the wherewithal to move forward. So if the council currently sits here and doesn't believe it should move forward, I'm not sure it's worth taking money from some other organization or other city that might be able to use this for a project that's worthwhile. And I think the opposite is true, is the fact that we're turning it down because we're not going to waste other people's money in something that we're not planning or have a full council support.
Thank you. Mr. Jocelyn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Boy, I'm kind of surprised. Let's see, what we're being asked to consider is whether or not to accept $800,000 awarded to the city in a competitive process, do design work that will have value into the future, even if what is being designed is never built. Is that a fair assessment, Mr. Regos?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I don't understand. For all of the fiscal responsibility exhibited by members of this council, for which they are well known and are to be lauded, I don't understand. Just simply do not understand. The situation is made more complicated by the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, it's a single piece of property owned by a single owner who rents parcels, or I do not know the relationship between the folks who live there currently and their status as homeowners or property owners. My belief is that they're renting a place that is their home. I'm not in any way denying that, and that's really important. It's also my understanding that state law requires the city to move them and provide housing commensurate with, or again, I can't speak to the specifics of the same and as affordable, but it isn't that they're kicked to the curb and out to the street. The city has an obligation going forward to provide them housing and pay for it, if I'm not mistaken. Again, Mr. Rios.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct.
So, and that's 7 years from now, and the people who live there now and own the trailers that are on that property may or may not still be there 7 years from now. But for the city, at this point in time, because of that very well-founded concern about those 6 individuals on those properties where they live but do not own, it is remarkable to me that this council would actually do the funny, and I believe Council Members Laudenbach's characterization is not wrong, that it won't be looked on kindly. I appreciate Councilmember Gotthilf's reframing, and some of that will come out in the balance, but at the end of the day, they're going to look twice and say, goodness, last time we gave them money, they didn't use it. Or I also don't think that 7 years from now, if you've done the design work and choose not to build it, or it changes, or it turns into something else, I can't see the future, but that is, I think the argument loses credibility over time into the future, and that what we're being asked to do today is to move forward with a design process. Not going to disrupt anybody. It's going to cost the city a penny to again do work that, because the future, I don't know what the future is, but I can't imagine that going forward as this community continues to, yes, there are more people than less. More of them are moving here. They're going to continue to move here. The engineers, I turn left there. I love that intersection. I love that left turn coming into town. I feel like a local when I make it. I always wonder if it's legal or not. I think the police chief didn't hear me. But
Captain, could you turn off yours, please?
so that's what we're being asked, and it's really simple. And to say no because of heartfelt, again, concerns, I just don't understand. It would be foolish, just straight up foolish. And I can repeat myself over and over, but I will stop now. And I hope I've made my point. And I hope that folks really seriously consider what it would mean for reasons that I'm sympathetic to, but do not carry the day for me. To turn down $800,000 in grant funding is foolish.
Mr. Rosen, I haven't heard from you.
Yeah, I've expressed the concern in the past, I'll express it again. Displacing those folks in that community for a roundabout that I don't currently see a huge value to is something I'm not comfortable with. To build this and proceed because we're afraid to lose funding in the future and displace those who live there just because of the fear of losing funding in the future, to me is not a good enough reason to go forward with a project. If we don't intend to build it, we are not comfortable building it, I don't believe we should take funding for something that we don't intend to ever build. In addition, if that is the decision of council tonight, we also should look at removing that from the TIP 6-year and, adjusting our traffic impact fees accordingly. Because it would not be fair to continue to leave that on there if we have no intent of ever building. That's all.
You, Ms. Colon, follow up?
So Mr. Jocelyn made me think when he said that the people living there don't own the property, they are renting there.
that made it even more concerning to me about how are they going to afford to live? So they're not going to make money on this roundabout. They are going to be moved into King County, North Bend, which we all know has $1 million homes and no one can afford. Usual people can't afford to live here. And I find that very concerning for a roundabout. Again, that I don't know is that beneficial. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Loneback.
Thank you, Your Honor. Clarification, Mr. Regos. What is some of the additional engineering infrastructure associated with this potential project that can be accomplished with this funding that is other than, I mean, nobody's going to be displaced at this point. Nobody is going to be moved at this point. Nobody's being forced or condemned into doing anything. What we're doing is allowing for an engineering study to go forward for potential projects going forward, which would again have to come before this council to be voted on sometime in the future. But what are some of the other aspects of this project that are a part of it that might show definite benefits to the people of the city of North Bend?
Yeah, we have about 100 acres of downtown area of old buildings, a lot of older roads without any water quality treatment. So we got all this rainfall, right, that turns into runoff and goes into our catch basins and down in our conveyance pipes. And 99% of that runoff that hits the pavement where there's oil and metals and rubber and all particulates, et cetera, just flows into the stream next to the treatment plant. What I'd like to see happen in that area as part of this study, as part of this work, is the construction, essentially the design at this point of a stormwater underground vault that compost filters that treat all that storm water. So any storm event less than the 60-year event, all that water is getting cleaned. So it's much cleaner that flows into the river. It's just downstream of the site. The roundabout provides quite a bit of an area right off 4th Street in order to do that. I'm not saying we can't do it without the roundabout. Roundabout gives us more area to that work.
Mr. Loneback, you done? Mr. Rosen.
Can we use these funds to look into stormwater issues out there without building the roundabout?
There's different pots of money that I can use for that particular exercise, and but I cannot use this $800,000 because this is dedicated towards the roundabout itself. So we can still do it. It's not what.
Understood.
Clarifying question. So if we don't build the roundabout, stormwater sign is not relevant to us without building the roundabout.
We do sort of yes, sort of no. We do a lot of studying at the condition at the roundabout. So what are all the drainage that's coming to that area? We know there's a culvert, a large culvert and a stream that flows right next to the mobile home park that's right next to the roundabout. We'd be doing an engineering analysis on stream water coming into that intersection. Where could the catch basins be? Where could the vault be? How would it be located in concert with that roundabout?
For the clarification, without building the roundabout, that study would not be, sufficient to do something without that roundabout. So ultimately, that is based upon the roundabout, right?
We can slide the stormwater filter vault over. It doesn't have to be in the roundabout. It could be 20 feet away.
So you're telling me that design would then be used if you didn't do a roundabout, you could use that portion of that design to build the
analysis we could use, maybe not the design, because the design is different than the analysis.
Mr. Jocelyn.
How many state highways run through North Bend?
One.
Highway 202. And that's why this funding is available, because it's state funding this city to help address and fix one of the only state highway that runs through this town for not very far distance. That's part of why it was even available, is because it's state funding to fix a state highway. That's part of why this is the only way it can be used. Do the design work around about. At some point in the future, some council will be asked to decide if in fact it is actually to be built, and anyone, whether they live there today or not, perhaps the landowner, I mean, what if the person who owns the property sells the property? All the folks who live there would be gone tomorrow, or, you know, over time, there would be no obligation whatsoever for any of them. But to be provided housing, is anyone able to offer a little bit of talk to what obligation at this point in time, not 7 years in the future, mind you, that the city would be obligated to provide in terms of anyone who would be impacted were something like this to go forward?
Mr. Regos, I think the
Go
question
ahead.
relates back to the consultant that came a few years ago to talk to council about the process of purchasing and relocating.
I just want to be clear that there is an obligation in state law that
Oh, yeah.
folks so disturbed would need to be provided for in some, and I don't want to argue the particulars on better or worse or forward, or they'd be moved, and that's disruptive, and I want to acknowledge that. At the same time, there is some effort and expectation that they be compensated for some time into the future, such that that disruption is at least recognized and minimized, perhaps, to provide a time of transition. I just want to speak to that. It sounds to me like this is going down, and if so, you know, so be it.
Yeah.
Goodness, folks, we don't have crystal balls. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know any of the things, because yes, folks might, 6 folks who live there, that is their homes, but the potential for them to be disturbed 7 years from now is enough of a rationale to say, no, we don't want $800,000 in design work done. Again, I find that shocking. Thank you.
Ms. Miller, I think you're the last.
I'm very interested in what everybody has been saying, of course, tonight and all the discussion. One of the concerns I have personally is that because it's a state road, we have the timing of that light. So when we have moments where the freeway is the capacity of something happening out there that leads people to go take 202 and then they get backed up and then they have to figure out how to get through town. That's always a miserable thing to experience, right? We've all seen that, heard about it. When you put a roundabout in that location, which is definitely unique to what we have here right now, we've never had anything designed to this capacity. You spoke to that earlier, the direction into 4th Street. There's apartments right there. You'd be limiting parking on that side. I'm not convinced that any design will not allow for parking in that area. It's a very old part of town. It's actually called Old Silver Creek, which is in I think in need of some infrastructure issues need to be addressed at some point. So you're potentially pushing traffic that way. We don't know what year. We certainly don't have a crystal ball, but it is a potentially shock to the system if we don't do it right. And that's my concern. We have to, all these pieces in place, including the state, timing of the lights, figuring that out, moving people around into other locations, making sure that that's of course the truth, may or not be renting. We don't know what that future even looks like, but there's so many unknown factors, at least to me, makes me just pause for a moment on this particular roundabout project all the more. It's kind of where I'm at. Hate to lose money. It's not where I would like to be. It's not the effort. I didn't call for this grant to be coming our way. Didn't ask for it personally. And sometimes when you have some people out there that want to have grants come our way, we sometimes just it's not the right fit, not the right fit now. And that's kind of how I feel. And I am looking into the future, by the way. So we don't know how all the pieces will fly together. My hope is that we really, with a new administration possibly coming in, that gives me a cause for some concern as well. Different ideas. This one does not hold the grounds for me to really, really want to go ahead. And it might be possibly because I live in that area. That's the emotional part that I know I speak to, because I know some of these owners currently, and my heart is, I have to sleep at night with a clear conscience. And right now I can't. That's where I'm at. All right.
You? All right. I think we've exhausted the topic. You are.
I appreciate the heartfelt commentary. I hear a plea for more information and how the pieces would fit together. Would there be parking or not? Again, if you spend the money that costs us nothing, what will come forward is design that will in fact express and provide all kinds of insightful information that would allow for a much more informed decision about whether or not this project would make sense for this town at no cost to us. And then we would have bits and pieces and be able to look and appreciate much more thoroughly what we are presenting and would be asked at some future point in time to approve. Thank you.
Okay. Going once. Twice. Motion before you is to approve AB 23-063, a resolution accepting federal STP funds for preliminary engineering of the Bendigo Boulevard and Fourth Street Roundabout Capital Project. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
2. Those against,
Okay.
Nay.
here 4. If the motion fails, Mr. Loudenbeck, Mr. Jocelyn voting in favor, the others voting against. 2. That brings us to item number 7 on the agenda. This is, item number 6 on the agenda, AB 23-061. This is a public hearing. Resolution adopting the 6-year TIP for 24-29. And Mr. Regos, I think that now that explains why I asked for a change in the order.
No problem. Thank you. Page 37 in your packet. We do this every year. Some of these projects are non-controversial and some of these projects are just tougher. So each year we get several transportation capital projects done. We're happy to provide the next set of 6-year projects, and those were discussed at our most recent Transportation and Public Works Committee meeting. That was a couple weeks ago. Some of our active transportation projects for the audience are Project T031, that's Cedar Falls Way, Stilson Avenue Sidewalk crosswalks. And we've got a Cedar Falls Way, Maloney Grove Avenue crosswalk improvement. We've got a project for the Almway Bridge removal. The project we're working on is a mid-block crosswalk along Maloney Grove near the Cedar Falls Platte entrance. That's where a lot of children are walking to the school there. Got the large 2-lane roundabout at SR 202 and Mount Si Boulevard. Got the roundabout at 436th Avenue and Southeast 136th Street intersection. That's about 98% done. It looks great. The channelization, the street striping is not yet. And then we've got the South Fork Avenue extension, Bendigo to Northwest 8th Street roundabout project. Northwest 14th Street widening and reconstruction project. Another roundabout at 468th Avenue Southeast and Middle Fork Road intersection. We've got Tanner Trail phases 2 and 3 that we're working on. South Fork Avenue levee setback project. Got a roundabout at North Bend Way and Mount Si Road intersection. And we've got a State Route 202 shared use path. That's a new pedestrian bridge over South Fork Snoqualmie River. That would be just downstream of the existing bridge. So our public works staff is very busy working on some of those active transportation projects. We don't actually have too many changes from last year's TIP to this year's TIP. But we have been working on the Complete Streets program that you're aware, 6 segments of North Bend Way, which is 3 or 4 miles long from west city limits to east city limits. We've got talked about the pedestrian bridge. It's a new project that we acquired grant funding for. And we've completed a lot of projects recently as well. What I really like in your packet is a map. Shows we also have a narrative too of each of the projects. It's a short 3 or 4 sentence description on each project. And then we have priorities on the map that are very helpful. It shows where the project's located, and the lower the number is the higher the project priority, just in our mind. So we review this twice per year with our Transportation and Public Works Committee. This is a requirement of the state to approve our 6-year TIP. This is the first reading tonight. We'll do a second reading June 6th or June 20th. So I'm just here to take input and hear council thinks. Lose my staff report.
Very much. Any clarifying questions before we move to public comment?
Snoqualmie tribe. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. The Snoqualmie tribe reached out this evening with some of their concerns. And I'm hoping that Mr. Regos can speak to them, but one of theirs was the South Fork Avenue extension from Bendigo Boulevard in Northwest 8th Street, the Nintendo bypass. And they are saying it's a very sensitive area and they have concerns, and they've had concerns for years. And they say it's near a known archaeological site. The tribe has been urging the city to limit disturbance there. And can you speak to that?
Sure can. I am aware of their concerns with this project. A couple months ago, I invited Snoqualmie tribe out to the site with me. We had the potential future road construction stake, 350 feet. We put stakes in where we thought the road very conceptually designed. We have been talking about relocating that road about 50 feet from where it is. But unfortunately, Snoqualmie tribe didn't show up for that meeting. I don't think they want any road project. And that's a potential concern I have because we've had this South Fork Avenue extension project in our 6-year TIP for at least my 10 years, probably another 10 years. And what's going to happen is if we don't do some of these transportation capital projects, whether it's Pickett Avenue, whether it's Roundabout, whether it's this project, we're just going to see worse congestion in downtown. We're going to see level of service worsen. So as part of this work, we will definitely do an archaeological and cultural study, part of the design. So before we do construction, that's a requirement of NEPA. And so in this project also goes through public input. It will take a couple years to design. Now, if we do find anything out there, certainly the tribe would be notified during construction. I'd like to see the project continue to move forward, but I'm looking at these projects from many different perspectives. So that answers your question.
Any other clarifying? Seeing none, we'll move to public comment. Well, this is a hearing, so we will open the hearing at 7:48. You are a member of the public, either here in chambers or online, wishing to testify regarding this proposal. Please indicate so. We will call upon you and you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak, starting with your name and address for the record. Is there anyone here in chambers? Seeing none. Do we have anyone online?
No one at this time?
Very much for that. None. Council. This is intended to be a first reading. I know there's some other comments that are sure to be made. I'm not expecting that you want to continue the hearing. I want to kind of glance at you to see if there's any indication that you want me to continue the hearing until this final reading. Seeing any? Clerk, do you need clerk? That's what I was trying. Oh, it does say that. Thank you very much for pointing that out. We'll stick with that. Thank you, Mr. Laudenbach.
I'm clarifying, I mean, is there a reason not allow public?
None.
Okay.
Right. And then with that, so we won't be closing the public hearing for all. We will move on this evening. For first motion. So Mr. Laudenbach, this goes back to you again for a motion.
Thank you. Motion to approve AB 23-061, a resolution adopting the 6-year Transportation Improvement Plan 2024 through 2029 as a first reading and continuing the public hearing until June 20th, 2023, City Council meeting.
Motion by Mr. Laudenbach, second by Ms. Miller. Mr. Laudenbach. I think that's a first in my tenure, so.
Ross, your walk-up music.
Yeah.
Isn't technology one of?
Yes, it is.
And not even a cracking game to blame it on.
Yeah, that's a kangaroo court $5 fine right there. Anyway, no, I think, obviously there are a lot of great things in the 6-year TIP and, not everything is what everybody dreams of when they look to move forward, but I think a lot of good work has gone into preparing this. There are a lot of projects that are ready to go and definitely will help improve the traffic flow within the city of North Bend. And I would recommend that as we move forward, we take in public comment and consider it and address it at the June 20th meeting.
Ms. Miller, you were the second.
Well put, Ross. I also want to say to our staff, thank you for all the hard work and effort that you do to make all these maps that I love the way so enjoyable. We have so many projects out there that I want the public to be excited about ultimately. So as we move forward and have our the public add to the 24th, is it the 24th? 28th, excuse me. I want them to certainly come and engage and ask questions. Very important to hear from them, of course. So that happens. Thank you so much.
You, Mr. Godhill.
I want to just give a positive to, if you take a look at the active transportation projects that are in construction. I mean, I think that's really knows what this is and why this fund is and why we do it. I think it'd be great if the public look at what's been done and what's been done that's on this list. And I think staff and administration has done a good job on it.
Thank you. What else? Mr. Rosen.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Great job here, staff, getting this put together as usual. I mentioned it briefly in my comments earlier, out of fairness, if we want to look at T016, maybe drop that and adjust our 6-year TIP and also our traffic impact fees accordingly if the council doesn't seem to be moving in that direction. Maybe that's something we should look at. That could be done, I guess, now, between now and when we look at it again. Just the thought.
That can be a recommendation at our next DPW committee, which is
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Awesome.
Thank you, Your Honor. Couple of things. My reading of the communication from the Snoqualmie on the levy setback, which I appreciate being raised. Well, first, it's an important relationship, as we know, to nurture, work with, listen to, and continue, because that's how we are, that's how neighbors behave. What it states is the city is also where the tribe does not support a road on top of or next to proposed setback levy. So hopefully defeat of movement or further from the river and looking at what's on the TIP to the degree that the roadway is anyway reflective. Further from the river hopefully is better. I had a specific question, which is the park element of the city comprehensive plan came before the CED committee today, and I'm aware that there's 2 bridges proposed. If you look at I think it's figure 8.2. One at Shamrock Park across from Skyview Park, because it's county land also owned by the park district. And there's actually a 3-foot connector that goes out to the road, and there is public easement, and the county owns a parcel on that side of the river as well. But more importantly, and I think a better choice, is a bridge off the end of 10th Street. The vision being that there be a trail all along the levee from Bendigo Boulevard coming into town, south along what I think of as the west side of the river until you go over the bridge at 10th Street. And then you currently have access along that entire levee. Almost all of it being, if not in public ownership, at least there's an easement, not in all cases, but in most. And then you can get all the way to the general store or 436th. And that's a great vision. And we're so close. And that bridge would make it possible. So my question is, how do we get the bridge at 10th Street on the TIP list?
we can talk about it at our TPW committee meeting next week. So I'll be meeting with 3 of you and I'll look at locations. I'll scratch my head and think about costs. I'll consider constraints, we got a floodplain out there, obviously, and the long span, right? So it's going to cost a lot of money for.
I'd just be interested in if some focus being brought to it going forward. That's great. Thank you.
You. Anyone else? Once, twice. Okay, the motion before you is to approve AB 23-061, resolution adopting the 6-year transportation improvement plan for 2024 to 2029. It's a first reading and continuing the public hearing until the June 20th, 2023 City Council meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and it is unanimous. Thank you very much, council. And that, let me get my head straight around now where we are. I think that brings us to one of the favorite items of the night. Item number 7, AB 23-062. This is an ordinance amending North Bend Municipal Code 9.45 regarding drug and alcohol position. Before I turn it over to Miss Marshall, I'm going to steal a little bit of the thunder. Late today, if you did not see the email I sent out, the legislature did step up and did pass a fix to Blake that we've all been looking for, pushing for, all the cities together. Maybe a little bit early for us to know exactly everything that's in it. I'm going to ask the captain to share any thoughts that he's been able to put together with us as well as Miss Marshall. But I did just see a note from Chief Phipps, and I hope that Brian, come on, yeah. So let me first share with you, Chief Phipps said, because we asked him to do a quick review. He said, "As in our first review, I'm happy that a bill was passed to make possession and public use illegal as a gross misdemeanor, though it was a compromise penalty punishment. I am concerned with the restrictions on cities to limit their ability to enact ordinances, control or restrict the distribution of drug paraphernalia and other harm reduction strategies in their communities. Bill also has significant text regarding treatment and recovery. She needs to spend more time reviewing. However, overall, first look, this is a much better than we had. It is better than the possibility of the lesser crime of the misdemeanor, which was the real possibility." Share that with you. Captain, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I've made it about 2/3 of the way through the 49-page bill since it got sent to us this evening. I'm excited. However, my excitement is tempered because this is going to be one of those things where we're going to have some extensive legal update training at the officer level to see what this is actually going to look like out in the field. I have some questions about, in lieu of jail bookings, are we not going to be booking anyone into jail if we find them in possession or use in public? And then it's only incarceration through the courts, which if I'm reading it correctly, that's the intention here. There are some times when I feel that people need to be incarcerated to help them along on their road to treatment. For the last 2 years, we've lived in an era where there's been zero accountability and there's been zero carrot dangled in front of these suspects to get treatment. So I am excited that something has moved. But like I said, my excitement is tempered until I figure out what exactly it means and what we're going to be able to do. I had the great displeasure of standing over a 25-year-old male yesterday in North Bend of a drug overdose and do his death investigation. It is a real problem here. It is a problem that has blossomed and bloomed the last 2 years without any kind of law enforcement actions. We just couldn't, even the 2021 fix to Blake had us giving warnings and sending people to drug assessments that sometimes didn't exist. I'm hoping that everything that is in here, the government has a state level has a plan on what it's going to look like. Or if we are able to not incarcerate, if we're able to not charge, and we send somebody in a timely fashion to a drug counseling center. Because most of the time when we come in contact with these people, it's a very timely matter to get them somewhere in front of a counselor. Because if not, if they're let to go and walk back into the world that they live in, there's really no motivation to stop what they're doing. And if the odds go up that be standing over one of them in the future. So I am happy that at the last hour that the state was able to do something. I just need to know what it will look like for my guys. How it will affect the public safety here.
Thank you, Cap. And yes, Mr. Godhill.
Curious if you would clarify, you said something about limiting the city's rights or abilities to legislate on drug paraphernalia and stuff. Is there a way you can, at least for the public and everybody here, to clarify that a little bit more?
I'm seeing some language in this state bill about drug paraphernalia. It's been a long time since we were able to charge for drug paraphernalia at the state level. So hopefully that is going to be a fix. I'm going to have to get some legal advice on what I'm actually reading on this because it's very confusing. I'm sorry that I can't be clearer on that concern, but
You made a statement about the city limiting city's abilities to legislate and that.
I think
Maybe it wasn't drug paraphernalia, maybe it was needle exchange. I don't
know. In each section of this bill, I'm reading in here, there's in lieu of jail booking and referral to the prosecutor, which is our job. Violations of this section involving known possession or knowing use of in a public place, law enforcement is encouraged to offer a referral to assessment and services available under RCW 1031-110. I've read 1031-110. It has to do a lot with coming in contact with mental health patients that have committed a crime as well, and not incarcerating them and getting them mental health professional help. Don't know how that's going to correlate with drug possession or drug usage in public. If we are not able to arrest them and book them into jail, I'm not sure how this will benefit the problem. Hopefully, in the long run, the court will be able to have them show up for court if we give them a citation. Eventually, I would imagine the majority of those citations will turn to a warrant and we'll end up arresting them eventually. They don't show up. Then the court will have the incentive power to come through a treatment program or face the for the first two convictions, while it's a gross misdemeanor, it's only punishable for 180 days in jail. The third and subsequent convictions would be for the 364 days. If only they are not meeting their court-ordered drug programs. I am all for fixing the system because I don't think majority of my career, the model has not worked. The arresting the same people over and over again, not having any kind of program set up for them just was not going to work. And it pushed public sentiment towards this way far, where the last 2 years we've had basically legalized products in the state of Washington. We can see where that's gotten us. There has to be something. So I am excited that this is a step towards the right direction. I just don't know how it's going to look for our officers on the street. What will we be able to do? And how does it correlate with what the state needs to do? Having crisis centers and drug centers available 24 hours a day. We can put somebody in the car and say, I'm not going to book you for into jail for this offense. I'm driving you to a drug treatment center and we're getting you in there. That's the kind of response that needs to happen. I'm not sure that this will cover that. and make those needs available.
Thank you, Captain. Mr. Scott, I think it's actually that exchange is illustrating a little bit of why I was asking him come up and share with us and kind of the knowledge of the bill passing. As before I turn to Ms. Marshall, as we all recall, we started down this path, the city along with so many others, as the legislature during the regular session failed to act. And I think our hope has always been that they were going to act and that we didn't all have to put individual laws in place. And that's of course the consideration. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Marshall for her introduction and advice on how we proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. As you know, on April 23rd, the legislative session ended without a Blake fix. This one, Senate Bill 5536, came in my inbox about 5 o'clock this evening. So certainly Captain Brian Lynch knows a lot more about it than I do even at this point. What I'd like to talk to you about is how to move forward with what's on your agenda juxtaposed with what's in my inbox and probably a lot of yours as well, which is 5536. And I did not hear a motion moving 945, which is the one in your agenda. But possibly you could introduce this as a first reading, 5536. That would allow staff, myself, to compare what we had with what is in this bill. And there are some nuances that Captain Lynch alluded to that I'd like to look at as well. First of all, while this is effective July 1st, 2023, there is a section within this RCW 1031-115 that prohibits arrest for simple possession unless the individual has been referred to services in lieu of arrest. And that section apparently does not become effective until August 14th, 2023. So that gap is concerning to me. So there are some Scrivener's issues and some adoption issues I think we need to look at, but if you could move this for your first reading tonight, we're good to go. We're covered on July 1st. So that's the most important thing.
Any clarifying questions for Ms. Marshall?
So if we were to eventually pass this, and you probably don't know, are there portions of this that would further enhance protection or things that we would want as a city to see happen?
Well, there is, as I understand it, open air drug use prohibition in this. Captain Lynch is shaking his head. Yes, that's encouraging because that's something we didn't have in all cities in the past. Paraphernalia we'll need to look at. There's an issue in the law called preemption. For example, firearms are preempted. Only the state can legislate firearms. Don't think the state has preempted in this area, but we'll have to look at that as well. If not, then there's room for us to do our own thing.
Thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Laudenbach.
The reason we're in this in the first place is because the Supreme Court implemented the Blake decision and nobody had anything in place. So even if the state does exercise preemption in this, it doesn't hurt anything for us to have this on the books and ready to go, because the one thing you can be sure of in the state of Washington is somebody's going to challenge something that they don't like. And there are going to be some people that are going to view it as a beneficial to the community and protecting those who are unable to protect themselves, and that this is onerous and it's going to be draconian and they're going to challenge it. We have absolutely no idea what the state Supreme Court is going to do. And the only way that we can possibly give ourselves any modicum of protection to have something like this on the books. And if it's preempted by state law, then so be it. But if the state law is somehow usurped by a challenge, we are at least covered so that we don't have these kind of gaps here in our code.
Correct. And Council Member Laudenbach, it would be ill-advised not to adopt this. So certainly this is what we've been waiting for. It might not be ideal, but this is what we have now.
Questions? None. Move to public comment. Remember, the public here in chambers or online wish to speak on this agenda item. We'll ask you to do so. You have 3 minutes, and starting with your name and address for the record. Looking at our audience again, seeing no motion. Anyone online? Bree?
No one at this time?
No one online. Mr. Rosen, Public Health and Safety.
Got a motion to approve AB 23-062, an ordinance repealing NBMC 9.45 controlled substances and adopting NBMC 9.45 drug and alcohol possession as a first reading.
Second.
You have a motion and a second by Mr. Godhelp.
Excuse me, Mayor Freland. The motion that we're recommending tonight is a first reading of 5536. It's not.
It's not what's in front of me.
Okay,
So I don't know what 5536 is.
probably the best way for you to proceed, the motion's on the floor and discuss the motion that the legislation that came into our inboxes most recently this evening is 5536. That's the state law.
But that's the state law,
That's the
right?
state
So I don't know why we would move forward on a state law issue. This is about a local ordinance. So
It is. So
please clarify.
thank you. We can move forward with the agenda item that is in your packet. That is 9.
And that's the motion as read. The alternative was 5536, which is that was the Senate, right? So SB 536.
Correct.
Senate, S. All right, but the motion before you,
Can I ask a
I
clarification?
just want to, first I want to be sure that we're clear, all that everyone is clear. The motion is as is in the packet on AB 23-062. It is to amend North Bend Municipal Code, section 9.45. It is not speaking to the Senate Bill 5536.
Can I?
So and this is, and so we better get clarification from council. My look at this, and again, very briefly, none of us have had time to fully absorb the bill that came out, is that I think we should move forward with our ordinance as drafted on a first reading, buys time, get the full review by both our police services and legal counsel. And prior to bringing it back for the second reading, there's adjustments that we want to make or come back with a recommendation to just drop the legislation, we can do that. That is what I'm seeing. It's Marshall.
For clarification, the legislation that is in your packet is likely moot now due to the distribution of 5536. I apologize, Your Honor. My assumption tonight, and I think this is why I see quizzical faces, is that we would consider as a first reading 5536. That would become part of our municipal code by reference. If you do not wish to do that, we could simply revert back to the item in your agenda bill. That's what's been moved. That's what's been seconded. But there are two competing pieces of legislation right now. You have until July 1st. Another option is to give yourselves and us more time to figure out what 5536 is really doing. You can move forward with your first reading. You're not adopting it tonight. You're moving forward with your first reading. But I will say it's unlikely that it will be my recommendation to adopt 9.45 because now we have the Blake fix in front of us. At the time of the preparation of this agenda packet, we had no idea Blake was going to be discussed. We had no idea there was going to be a fix coming before you this evening.
Can I ask clarification?
Yeah.
We would not, as a local body, have a motion for the 563. I understand what we're trying to do here is put together and ask that NBC 945 be moved forward for a city ordinance in order to give us cover if something happens to that in that. That is what I think we're asking to do or thinking we're doing tonight. And doing it as a first reading, we're not adopting it, we can't adopt it. But there would be a difference between, I believe, a city ordinance and a state ordinance. We would not adopt it, we would just fall under it. Is that correct?
That is impossible for me to tell you right now because there are state ordinances that we do adopt by reference. There are state ordinances in your criminal code that are adopted by reference. So I cannot say you would not adopt this by reference. In fact, if we go through the code, and Brian Lynch and I will have to do this, there may be tweaks that you want to make, maybe adjustments that you want to make in 5536. That would be done through local ordinance. Right now, the dilemma is, what are you working on? Are you working on 5536 or are you working on 9.45? My reading of emails before this meeting tonight, I was led to believe that the city council was not interested in adopting something that would be in conflict with 5536. It is in your packet. It's what we thought we would be doing tonight, but then an hour before the meeting, the state legislation came in.
I got Mr. Jocelyn, then Mr. Rosen. Ask. Mr. Rosen.
Yeah, so since none of us really have looked at 5536, because it passed whatever 3.5 hours ago, there's no rush. I recommend that we wait on that until we all have had a chance to put our eyes on it. But passing this as a first motion, as it has already been presented, doesn't foul anything up. Gives us the ability also, if we see things in 5536 that we feel need to be addressed, we can revise 9.45, make some revisions, and then when this comes back for a final reading at our next meeting,
That
we can pass that and 5536 at the same time.
correct. That
Okay.
is one solution. And one of the reasons
Just
this is
a
so confusing is that it is not necessarily true that all state statutes are not in your code. There are several instances where they are and they've been changed. Without having read this, impossible to say.
Yeah, let's wait on that till we all look at it.
Yeah.
No one knows what it is.
Just to be sure we're clear on the timeline here. There is, as I understand, general built-in delay to effectiveness, and we do take an action. If this were not asked until the second meeting of June, would we be able to have it in place before July?
Yes, you would. If you're adopting on the second meeting of June, which I believe is the 20th, it would be 5 days after publication unless adopted.
The ordinance would be effective July 5th.
July 5th, thank you. To make the ordinance effective July 1st, you would need a supermajority, 5 in favor as an emergency ordinance. Clearly, this would qualify, having been sort of left in this position by the state during its session.
All right. So I'm going to say, council, that preference is going to be that our advisors post haste get back the analysis so that we would be able to bring it back. It's not an emergency on the coming council meeting, but at least as a backup, as an emergency ordinance, we would be able to act the second meeting of June.
So are we moving forward with this motion? Are we adopting as a first reading?
That, yeah, we still have,
Back.
we still have the motion for us that I'm about to read. Again, assuming I'm not going to hear any amendments being offered, I don't think I'm going to hear one of those. So the motion before you is to approve AB 23-062, an ordinance repealing North Bend Municipal Code 9.45, controlled substances, and adopting North Bend Municipal Code 9.45, drug and alcohol possession, as a first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and it is unanimous. Thank you. I was expecting that one to be a little confusing when you get direction from the state an hour before the meeting. Okay. Let's see, now we are up to item number 9 on your agenda, AB 23-064. This is a motion authorizing a contract with North Bend Downtown Foundation. Mr. Knoll's going to introduce it. I believe we have a bit of a presentation by the Downtown Foundation. My suspicion is this one's going to go a little smoother. Mr. Noel.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council. Just a bit of background. City Council previously approved $250,000 in ARPA funds through 2025 to support the hiring of an executive director for the North Bend Downtown Foundation that will allow the foundation to support and strengthen downtown businesses, manage events, including block party, trick or treat streets, and holidays, and enhance downtown as an attractive place to live, work, shop, and play. Ultimately, the ARPA funding will help the Downtown Foundation attain Main Street Community Designation, a milestone that will open new funding sources to help the foundation sustain its organizational capacity into the future. The attached funding agreement in your packet outlines the terms of the financial agreement between the city and the Downtown Foundation, both before the Downtown Foundation attains Main Street Community Designation in Exhibit A, and after Main Street Community Designation, Exhibit B. The agreement includes a scope of work and milestones that must be achieved to release the funding to the foundation. To share more information about the Downtown Foundation, I will introduce Beth Burrows, Interim Board President of the Downtown Foundation.
Oh, thank you for saving the best for last. Appreciate that. This is gonna be easy for y'all, so just sit back. So I'm Beth Burrows. I own the North Bend Theater and I'm here tonight on behalf of the Downtown Foundation as interim president. I just want to manage everybody's expectations here. I pop popcorn for a living. I watch movies for a living. I am not a professional PowerPoint presenter. So get what you get. I do want to say I am really good at one thing though, is that I love our town. Lived here for 34 years, love it. And I think that's a common thread that binds all of us on the board, all of us on the city council, is that we all want to see our town succeed, thrive. I believe that a strong partnership between, all right,
There we go.
outside of that, I believe a strong partnership between the city and the North Bend Downtown Foundation, it will really ensure that success. So let's get started on the next slide. So a little bit of history about the Downtown Foundation. We have been around since about 2014. We were actively involved in the Visitors Information Center. I'll let you guys read that. We were really active during COVID and the pandemic. We were going around visiting the businesses as they were open. We talked to them. We tried to share information. We worked closely with the chamber to get information out about grants. We created a program to pay it forward so people could buy gift cards. We could pass them out to other people to stimulate business for the businesses that were open. And we even paid to have sidewalks power wash just because we wanted to kind of freshen things up and make people want to come downtown. Next one. So the downtown core matters. It shows who we are as a city. The better downtown looks, the more that it's thriving, the more that we have down there and enjoying it, reflects on us as a community as a whole. Due to a recent study by Main and Place from the Economic Development Commission, we learned that per acre, historic downtowns bring in more than even outlet malls and in revenue and food and gas and shopping interchanges. So that's an interesting fact to come out of that study. So there are a few challenges that we have that are, I wouldn't say blocking, but just kind of a hurdle for us to get over. We do need to focus more on revitalizing our downtown. Our businesses right now are feeling a little bit of disengagement simply because as an all volunteer board, it is hard for us to get out there and talk to everybody face to face, person to person, because we have businesses, we have jobs. It's just hard for us. That's why we are looking for a dedicated executive director who will be that face, who will engage on a regular basis with everybody. Also, event management is hard with an all volunteer board. These are big events. I mean, they're bringing in thousands of people to our downtown area, and it's hard to manage just with volunteer board. You need somebody who cares, you need somebody who is dedicated, do these projects. Next slide. So with city support, which I think is very important for the future of our downtown, if we don't get the support, these are the things that I perceive. You don't have somebody dedicated to look at these things, you will suffer from the lack of attention. I mean, it's cool when I'm downtown and I see like a street light that's askew, and been so lucky to be able to call Carrie and say, "Great, there's a light bulb that's going to fall off," and she boom, somebody out there. But you need somebody in downtown walking around looking for these things. You need this. Also, let's keep that tax base going. Let's get these businesses profitable and blooming and just growing. Partnerships that we already have established could, if you don't have somebody caring about them, they wither. And community events, like these big events that we do each year, block party, street, holidays, would likely be in a reduced manner. If we could count on the city council for a financial bridge, get us from where we are now to a full-time executive director, get into the Main Street community, then that would create a path for us to be self-sustaining, as it would open up areas for us funding, and they would give us a structure around which to build our organization. So we'd have advice, we'd have guidance, and we would have some funding mechanisms beyond the city. So as I see it as these are the benefits that we get. We can partner more closely. We can help engage business and property owners a little bit more directly. We can grow the people who come to the business outreach meetings. I love them. I love hearing all the information that goes on at these things. So I go, but to drag some other people there. We can develop more on town specific. Being that somebody can reach out to at an office, we would get being that person who people can reach out to and grab hold of and say, "Hey, listen, heck is with the sign code. I don't understand it." We could explain it. Wouldn't that save you like 3 calls a week on sign codes? Wouldn't that be nice to have somebody field that for you? And yes, so it would help us implement the Main Street program. We would really help with quality. And of course, it would allow us to plan and coordinate and manage the events that we put on every year. We do have built into the contract accountability for the money that we would be receiving. This is a great plan. Let's get the community's vision for downtown. I mean, we as business owners, we know what we would like to see. Does the community see that also? So let's engage with them. We would get an implementation of funding. We have coordination meetings in quarter, and we would have an annual work plan with a budget. And then we would come and present to the council results and future goals. I think this is more of the same. we would be able to help businesses on an individual basis, help new ones as they come in, and see, we're all connected with the web. We're all connected in this web that we can all help each other. Community groups, property owners, business owners, having that dedicated person to field those calls, to get out and be the face of the Downtown Foundation would be important. And it would lead us into the Main Street Partnership, which would then give us future growth and funding, and it would give us the knowledge and resources to continue. Here are some more programs. Insert at my art. Look at that. I inserted those all by myself. So as you know, we have murals going up in town. Got that cool one that's on the side of Press on Main. We have one on the back of the new incoming ice cream shop. We will have one on the back of the Iron Duck soon. Downtown Foundation is spearheading that with the design committee. We got a grant from the Snoqualmie tribe. They are part of the design committee, so we'll be putting up a mural on the back of the Iron Duck building. So we're going to become known for some pretty good murals around town. And we can do more community events, more engagement with our business owners. We want to help the city with the walkability and linking up neighborhoods. And this would allow us to be able to grow the volunteer base. As you can see, the Main Street program through the Department of theology and preservation. You know, their main thing is that take what you have, and make it your selling point. So usually every little town has a really cool downtown area that's what makes you unique, gives you your flavor, that gives you your spice. And that's what we're going to use to create our flavor too, is our downtown. So we're not alone. 38 other communities have gone through this program. And with 34 in the wings waiting to become Main Street community. Okay. More of the same. Nothing but good stuff will come out of a future partnership. You would help us fuel our engines, help us build a bridge into becoming a Main Street program. And once we're there, they can help guide us on to future successes.
So Beth may not be a professional PowerPoint person, but she's a professional presenter and seller. Yeah, we've got
Professional
that.
comedian.
We're going to need to take public comment, of course, but any clarifying questions for Beth or Mark at this time? Olin?
So this position, would it be paid by the city? Would they get health insurance? Is it year to year? How does it work?
So
Direct.
full-time executive director position would in part be funded by the city, but we'd also be open for grants to help us through the Main Street program. It would also help with funding to continue on with that position. We've discussed health benefits. We work closely with the chamber, with Kelly. So we would probably try to mirror what they do for her benefits. It seems very affordable. It seems to answer what her health needs are. So we'd probably try to do that a lot. So we have a great example, great mentor in her, and we would try to follow along where success is. Why not follow what's done?
Just to be sure that you cut it, it would not be a city employee.
No, not a city employee.
But would it be year to year, or I don't know how that works.
Well, it's 1099. No, it's a full-time staff. Oh, they're all on the board of Downtown Foundation. So they're here. I might not know everything,
They're the lifelines.
but I know a guy. So yeah, so here are my guys.
Gaylor, you want to step up?
You got people.
Thank you. Part of becoming a designated Main Street is the requirement of a full-time paid executive director. So that would be an ongoing position, and it would be a requirement to maintain designated Main Street. So part of the point of getting assistance and partnership with the city is to help create some seed funding to get a position, a paid person, to not only accelerate our work in downtown. As Beth mentioned, it's all volunteer driven right now. We really need a full-time person driving the bus, and also working with the Main Street coordinators in developing and meeting the criteria in order to become a designated community, which takes sometimes up to 2 to 3 years. There's a lot of criteria that needs to be met, but the number one is that you have a paid staff person. Did I answer your question?
And I'm sorry, I don't know anything about businesses or downtown core, but what would be the criteria for hiring this person?
Point of information. The question before us is whether or not to offer funding to the North Bend Downtown Foundation. We have, and that's what we would vote to do. Upon doing so, we provide them the money and they go out and hire an executive director, and we forego any ability, is my understanding.
Statement versus.
Sorry. Is it not incorrect for the board to be asserting authority over decisions such as who and how an executive director would be hired and their benefits? That seems beyond the scope of what's before us.
We would work with other successful executive directors through the Main Street program. We would take their job descriptions and form it to our specific needs. And then we would go through a hiring process and advertising, a call out, hiring process, and then we would hire. So it would be done carefully and thoughtfully.
Mr. Rosen.
Quick question, and I'm not familiar with finances and everything, obviously.
Join the
But
club.
do you, in addition to looking to the city for funding, do you also get funding from local businesses as well?
Not from local businesses saying, no, we'll be able to get funding. The Main Street program will be a funding mechanism. It will have grants available for Main Street communities. So we get out of affiliate status into that community after hiring the full-time. So we'll have access to more grants, more other funding programs we'd be able to access because we have that designation. Don't have that.
Thank you.
God help.
The term I kind of like to hear, because it's one of the things when we first find or decided on trying to see this and we started it, was self-sustaining. How long before you believe that would happen? I understand the 250 would be seed money, you know, and then it would not be a city funded. It would then be self-funded is what I understand. Is that correct?
You know,
Maybe I can address this one.
Thanks, Rebecca.
I
know a guy.
The idea is that it wouldn't completely be self-sustaining. The position would be, but we would continue to pay for the events. So the amount that would come out of our budget would be the same that you budget for events now, but they would be covering through the self-sustaining process, the cost for running the person that helps run the events. But we would still budget the block party funds. We would still budget the lighting, and we would still budget trick or treat street. And so those in the agreement are considered ongoing funds that you guys would continue to approve in your budget, just like you have. But the board position is the seed money, ARPA, and then it would be self-sustaining after that to keep the person hired.
And I understand that. Would that then be less staff time? Because the now
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
foundation would take over that. So
Absolutely.
I understand there would be some funding for the things that we do, but at this point, it would also relieve staff time down the line on going forward. But their self-sustaining would, what I'm understanding, we would just continue to do what we've done in the past, not
Correct.
continue to sustain North Bend down Foundation.
Correct.
Rebecca, can I ask you a quick question here? I understand what we're up here and what we're going to be voting on, by the way. But a point of clarification, would this money be involved with finding a storefront, a location for this individual or this operation? We even think about that at all as part of this?
We don't have that as part of this contract, but we have been in discussions about a location.
Thank you.
Else.
I'm ready now. I'm warmed up. I am ready. Bring it.
Yeah, it's
Bring it on.
dangerous. I think most of us know the crowd that's on this foundation board and a little concerned if you all.
No, I know. Watch out. We'll move the world. if You let us. So.
Mr. Jocelyn.
You could consider providing popcorn with your PowerPoint presentation.
Oh,
No,
okay.
Good.
Now we're starting to slip off a really bad territory. Beth, thank you for that.
Very
This time I think we'll move to public comment and then we'll get a motion introduced here. Now I'm concerned about asking for public comment, but at this time, if you are here in chambers or online and would like to comment on this agenda item, chambers, please come forward to the podium. Seeing none online.
No one at this time?
We have no one online. This came through CED. Ms. Miller, would you introduce a motion for us, please?
Absolutely. Motion to approve AB 23-064, authorizing a contract with the North Bend Downtown Foundation in a form and content acceptable to the city attorney.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Laudenbach. Second, Ms. Miller, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you again. I just want to say this has been a long time coming and the foundation almost didn't make it. It almost was about to end, and I'm happy to hear that there's enthusiasm to take it a different direction. in a way that has been proven. Main Street program has been proven before. So that's something that's satisfying to know going forward. So good luck and can't wait.
Mr. Loudonbeck, anything to add?
Main Street program is excellent. It's worked in a lot of other communities up and down the corridor here, and I'm anxious to see it come to fruition here. So hopefully the hiring of this full-time program director is going to help facilitate that. And we get off affiliate status and into the Main Street program full-time as soon as possible.
You. Mr. Rosen?
Just a question on page 108. I'm reading this correct, and please correct me if I've got it wrong. Are we committing to funding of $168,000 per year moving forward after the ARPA funds?
That is the.
Are you
commit-
referencing
Yes.
the page number in
Yes.
the packet?
Yes, I am.
Yes,
Thank you.
that commitment is the result of once we're in the program, we get 75% of that back from our taxes. So the difference
Yeah.
is the event cost. So when we did the math to determine the Main Street funding mechanism, when we donate this one year, then we get 75% back next year. That difference is our event funding. So all we're promising is the cost of event funding that comes out of the budget year after year, as we get the refund each year.
Perfect. That answers it and clears that up for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that question. Good one. Ms. Colon, anything more? Mr. Jocelyn?
Just thank you for the energy and enthusiasm you bring to the city.
God help, anything more?
So let me get that right, because I'm trying to understand what you're saying. So we get a portion of the money back. It's still, because the top line, the motion talks about total outlay of 250,000. That is the outlay that we're talking, that's ARPA funds, but that's the total amount. We get 75% of that back that we then,
So before they become a Main Street program, we're giving them the ARPA seed money of $250,000 plus the event cost. Once they become a Main Street program, we will then donate $168,000 each year, and we will get 75% of that back the following year. So that once they're a Main Street designation, our outlaying cost into our budget is the same cost as events. The way the Main Street program works is there's a funding mechanism through utility tax, and that's the tax we pay. And if we donate money to a Main Street program, we get a discount of 75% of that funds on our tax. The only outlay to council is the same cost that we spend on special events, but it will go through a process of paying and then getting a rebate.
does that mean that they would then fund, with that money, they would then fund the special events? Because if I'm getting
Correct.
credit, it's 168,000
That would
and
fund
25%.
That would not, it wouldn't be 168 plus events. That 168 includes the cost for event,
Okay, so, and that is in this.
and that is in this contract.
Okay.
It is a little convoluted. All right, I think we got the, so yeah, I just see if I can summarize it up because I'm very excited about this finally launching. As council remembers, this was something that came up pretty early on during COVID in 20. The kind of the glimmer of this idea. It's taken a while to get it to this point. I think that, and again, a volunteer organization has done a great job at putting this together and figuring out all of the ins and outs and how are they going to successfully do that and being responsible of not wanting to just say, sure, sign this contract, we'll take the money and then we'll figure it out. They were very, very methodical in figuring out both how they would get through these next couple of years with the support dollars that council's offering, and then how they would be successful year after year, continue that. And I think it's one of those that, we've taken a couple of stabs at trying to create kind of this nebulous of a downtown tourist oriented organization that can help support the growth and the economic development down there. The Vic was one example of that. And this This, I think, is the one that's going to get us there. This is putting the power in the community, in the business owners' hands to do it with the seed money and a plan for how they can continue that forward. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great thing, and I certainly encourage you all to support it. With that, anything further? Then the motion before you is to approve AB 23-064, authorizing a contract with the North Bend Downtown Foundation in a form and content acceptable to the city attorney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and it is unanimous. Thank you very much, council. Very thrilled to see this. Thank you very much, guys. And one final point of clarification. I know that the slide with the Spider-Man was for Lucas. So just everybody should be aware of that. Okay, council, last main agenda item here tonight is number 10, AB 23-065. This is a motion approving the Economic Development Action Plan. Let me draw your attention to the way that motion is stated, because this is basically housekeeping. At the time this was last in front of you, the expectation was that we would be able to have a further discussion at a work study before this evening, then bring it back to you. That was not achieved. Therefore, since it was given as this date certain, I did not want to make an error of not showing it on the agenda. Our recommendation is essentially to send it back to a work study. Of course, council could again choose to vote. That's obviously always within your purview. That is not the motion in front of you. Let's see, this did come through the CED committee, I believe. Is there a staff report at all to go with this?
We did not prepare anything.
I didn't think so, since we didn't anticipate any action. And I would assume there's therefore no questions in this regard before we move to public comment. Is there any public comment on this here in the room? Any online?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A motion to postpone discussion on AB 23-065, approval of Economic Development Action Plan, the May 23rd, 2023 council work study.
Second.
Second by Mr. Jocelyn. Ms. Miller, anything you need to add?
Not at this time.
You, Mr. Jocelyn?
Thank you for the housekeeping, Your Honor.
You, anyone else? Hey, motion before you is as read to postpone discussion of AB 23-065, approval of the Economic Development Action Plan to the May 23rd, 2023 council work study. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and it is unanimous. Thank you for that. With that, we will move on to Mayor, Council, Administrator concerns and initiatives. Scott Health.
None tonight, Your Honor.
You, Ms. Miller.
Let's see, Sip Suds and Sigh is coming up on the 20th. I suggest everybody have fun and please attend 6 to 9. Tickets are online. If you're an early bird, they're 35. If you're there, it's 40. Is that correct? Okay, and I will certainly be there. It'll be a great time.
Mr. Johnson.
Let's see, I actually went out dinner at Volition Friday night. Having been somewhat of a recluse for a number of years and was shocked. I found myself wondering what town I had dropped into. I was enlightened and enjoyed myself, and there were young couples and young kids and more dogs than I could count. And I was just shocked in a very positive, pleasing way. And so that I guess somehow is relevant to the North Bend Downtown Foundation getting funding and a culmination of lots of folks working very hard in that regard. And thank you. I'll leave it at that.
You, Mr. Loudenbeck.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
You, Mr. Rosen.
Just a quick thank you, folks. Appreciate Downtown Foundation, what you're doing, what you're going to be doing as well. Thank you so much for taking that all on.
It's going.
Repeat what I've been saying week after week. The weather's been hot. River's been cold and high and fast, so be careful out there in our waterways.
You, Mr. Miller, anything for the administration?
Actually, we have failed to introduce our newest employee who is responsible for all of the technology in this room. Your computers, all of ours. He comes to us from Microsoft. He's here tonight. Name is Philip Davenport. No?
Hey.
And
Hey.
he also is schooled in building systems in terms of technology. So we got twofer. So we're very happy to have Phil here. And first day he was here, somebody jumped on him and said, my computer isn't working, and he had it going right away. So he's doing some great things for us and just wanted to
My
introduce.
computer isn't working.
Thank you, Mayor.
Did you hear what Phil said? He's true computer fashion. Did you reboot it?
Yeah.
Plug it in, turn it off?
Reboot it first. Dave, thanks for the call out there. It was really fantastic to get that position filled. I know we've all been waiting and in council's support for making that happen. So appreciate that. Few things, and doggone you, Miss Miller, because the first thing on my item list is Sip Suds and Cy. So don't miss the popular Sip Suds and Cy event happening Saturday, May 20th from 6 to 9 p.m. Grab your friends for a self-guided evening tasting and exploring charm in downtown North Bend. More information, check it out on the community calendar on the city website, or ask anybody in the audience tonight. I will be there. Also, looking for Miss Miller and all of the rest of you, because it is a great event and it is emblematic of how the community comes together. And yes, I bet there'll be a few dogs and a few children, and most of us here are going to look a little older than the most of the crowd. Yard waste recycling program will be held this Saturday, May 6th from 8 a.m. to noon at Public Works. Those attending are asked to use the Public Works entrance off of North Bend Way. Also, the Regional Animal Services of King County is currently running the License for Love campaign through June 30th, 2023, where you can license your dog or cat, renew an expired license, and your late fees will be waived. License your pet and reunite you with a lost pet quickly 24/7. Helps fund the care and adoption of shelter animals and supports the protection of people and pets in your community. Licensing of your pet is easy online at kingcounty.gov/license-my-pet, or right here in person at City Hall, or even at QFC. And with those three notes, I'm going to leave it at that. Ask for motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second by Mr. Motion by Mr. Godhouse, second by Mr. Jocelyn. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.